Mill hated me and humiliated me at her birthday party, so my hubby and I cut her off financially. I, 28F, have been married to my husband Jake, 30M, for 3 years now. We've been together for a total of 7 years, and for the most part, it's been a dream come true. Jake is everything I could have ever wanted in a partner: kind, supportive, ambitious, and with a wicked sense of humor that never fails to make me laugh. We met in college, both of us pulling all-nighters in the library during finals week. He offered me his last Red Bull, and the rest, as they say, is history. The only constant thorn in our side has been my mother-in-law, Linda, 58F. From day one, she's made it clear that she doesn't approve of me, and honestly, I've never been able to figure out why. I've spent countless nights lying awake, replaying every interaction, trying to pinpoint where I went wrong. But the truth is, I don't think I ever stood a chance. When Jake and I first started dating, Linda was polite but cold. She'd smile at me during family gatherings, but it never reached her eyes. You know that look, the one that makes you feel like you're being assessed and found wanting? Yeah, that was Linda's specialty. I chalked it up to her being protective of her only son and tried my best to win her over. I'd help with dishes after dinner, compliment her cooking, which, to be fair, was actually quite good, and even offered to help plan Jake's surprise birthday party. I went all out for that one: custom cake, his favorite band playing live, the works. Linda's response? Occurred, I suppose it'll do, before she took over and changed half my plans. As our relationship got more serious, Linda's attitude towards me worsened. She'd make snide comments about my career choice: I'm a freelance graphic designer, implying that I wasn't stable enough for her precious son. Oh, you're still doing that little computer drawing thing? She'd say, her voice dripping with condescension. I do hope you're saving for retirement. Not that Jake would ever let you struggle, of course. She'd constantly bring up Jake's ex-girlfriend, Sarah, who apparently was such a lovely girl and had such a promising future as a doctor. It was exhausting, but I tried to keep my cool for Jake's sake. Jake, bless him, always stood up for me. He'd shut down his mother's comments, telling her that he was proud of my work and that my career was just as valid as any other. But Linda had a way of making her disapproval known without saying a word. A raised eyebrow here, a disappointed sigh there, it was death by 1,000 cuts. When we got engaged, all hell broke loose. I still remember the day we told her. Jake and I were so excited, practically floating on air. We planned a nice dinner at Linda's house, wanting to share our joy with her in person. I should have known something was off when she opened the door and immediately zeroed in on the ring on my finger. Her face went through a series of emotions so quickly I almost got whiplash. Surprise, anger, disappointment, and then nothing. A blank mask slipped into place as she ushered us inside. Well, she said, her voice tight, this is unexpected. Jake, either not noticing or choosing to ignore his mother's reaction, launched into the story of how he proposed. He'd done it at the spot where we first met, surrounded by books and empty coffee cups, just like old times. It was perfect. Linda listened silently, her eyes never leaving my face. When Jake finished, she simply said, I see. Well, I suppose congratulations are in order. Then she stood up and walked to the kitchen, leaving us sitting there in awkward silence. That night was just the beginning. Over the next few months, Linda tried everything to talk Jake out of it. She told him he was making a huge mistake, that he was too young, that he didn't know what he was getting into. She even went as far as to call my parents and tell them that Jake was only marrying me because he felt obligated after dating for so long. I'll never forget the day my mom called me, her voice shaking with anger. Sweetie, she said, I've just had the most bizarre conversation with Jake's mother. She went on to tell me everything Linda had said, how I was trapping Jake, how I wasn't good enough for him, how this marriage would ruin his life. Thankfully, my parents saw right through her BS and stood by us. My dad, usually the calmest person I know, was ready to drive over to Linda's house and give her a piece of his mind. It took both my mom and me to talk him down. Despite all this drama, Jake and I got married in a beautiful ceremony. We decided on a small, intimate wedding in a local botanical garden. It was a perfect spring day, the kind you can't plan for but can only hope for. Everything was going smoothly until Linda showed up, in a white dress. Yeah, she was that kind of mill. I saw her walk in and felt my heart drop. Jake, standing next to me at the altar, must have felt me tense up because he gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. When I looked at him, the love and determination in his eyes gave me strength. In that moment, I knew that as long as we had each other, we could face anything, even a mother-in-law in a wedding dress. Linda spent the entire reception looking like she'd sucked on a lemon. She barely touched her food, refused to dance, and when it came time for speeches, she stood up and said, "I wish you both the very best. Jake, remember that your mother always knows best." Then she sat down and spent the rest of the night glaring at me from across the room. But you know what? We were too happy to care. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated with our friends and family. And at the end of the night, as Jake and I drove off to start our new life together, I felt nothing but joy and hope for our future. Now, here's where things get interesting. Jake's father passed away when he was in college, leaving behind a substantial inheritance. It was a tragedy that hit Jake hard. He and his dad were incredibly close. Jake doesn't talk about it much, but I know he still misses his father every day. Jake's been smart with his money, investing wisely and building a successful business. He's always been generous with his family, especially his mom. I think, in a way, he was trying to fill the void his father's death left, not just for himself but for Linda too. He bought her a house, a beautiful 3-bedroom place in a nice neighborhood, much bigger than she needed for just herself, but Jake wanted her to be comfortable. He pays for all her bills, utilities, property taxes, insurance, you name it. He even gives her a monthly allowance for what he calls fun money, money for her to spend on whatever she wants, no questions asked. I never had an issue with this arrangement. I come from a family where we believe in taking care of our elders, so I understood Jake's desire to provide for his mom. Plus, we were comfortable financially, so it wasn't a strain on our resources. If anything, I admired Jake's generosity and his commitment to his family. However, Linda seemed to take this generosity as a sign that she had some sort of control over our lives. She'd constantly try to dictate how we should spend our money, where we should live, and even when we should start having kids. "You know, that house down the street from me is for sale," she'd say casually during Sunday dinners. "Wouldn't it be nice to be closer to family?" Never mind that we loved our current home and that moving would double Jake's commute to work. Or she'd make comments about our spending habits. "Another vacation? Don't you think you should be saving that money for my grandchildren?" This, despite the fact that we'd told her multiple times that we weren't ready for kids yet. Jake would gently shut her down, telling her that our finances and family planning were our business. But she never seemed to get the message. It was like she saw Jake's financial support as a down payment on the right to control our lives. Fast forward to last month. It was Linda's 58th birthday, and she decided to throw a big party at her house, the one Jake bought her, mind you. She invited all her friends, extended family, and of course, us. Jake and I decided to go all out on her gift, buying her a luxurious spa package at a high-end resort. We figured it might finally thaw the ice between us. I spent weeks researching the best spas in the area, reading reviews, and comparing packages. I wanted everything to be perfect. The place we chose was amazing. It had everything from massage therapy to gourmet meals to yoga classes. The package we got her included a 3-night stay, all meals, and a variety of treatments. It cost a small fortune, but we thought it would be worth it to see Linda happy and relaxed for once. Oh, how wrong we were. The day of the party arrived, and Jake and I spent the morning getting ready. I remember standing in front of the mirror, smoothing down my dress and taking deep breaths. "It's going to be fine," I told my reflection. "She'll love the gift, and maybe, just maybe, things will get better." Jake came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist and meeting my eyes in the mirror. "You look beautiful," he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Ready to face the dragon?" I laughed, feeling some of the tension leave my body. This was why I loved him. He always knew how to make me feel better, even in the face of his mother's disapproval. We arrived at Linda's house, gift in hand, and were immediately engulfed in the chaos of the party. Linda had really gone all out. There were balloons everywhere, a huge cake in the dining room, and what looked like enough food to feed a small army. The party started off okay. Linda was playing the gracious host, showing off her house and bragging about her successful son to anyone who would listen. Jake and I mingled, making small talk with relatives we hadn't seen in a while. I was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't be so bad. Then came time for the gifts. Linda sat in the center of the living room, surrounded by a mountain of presents. She opened each one with exaggerated enthusiasm, oohing and awing over every candle and bottle of wine. "Oh, Martha, you shouldn't have," she exclaimed over a gaudy crystal vase. "This will look perfect in my foyer." I watched as she made her way through the gifts, her smile growing wider with each expensive brand name she unveiled. Gucci sunglasses, a Hermes scarf, a Tiffany bracelet. Her friends had clearly spared no expense. Finally, she got to our gift. My heart was pounding as she picked up the fancy envelope. This was it. The moment of truth. Linda's face lit up at the sight of the envelope, clearly expecting a check or gift card. But as soon as she read the details of the spa package, her expression changed. The smile slid off her face, replaced by a look of, "Was that disappointment?" "Oh," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "A spa day? How thoughtful." I felt my heart sink. Next to me, Jake tensed, his hand finding mine and squeezing it reassuringly. "We thought you'd enjoy some pampering, Mom," Jake said, trying to salvage the situation. "The resort has amazing reviews, and—" Linda cut him off with a wave of her hand. "It's fine, Jake. I'm sure your wife picked it out. She probably thought it would help with my wrinkles." I felt my face flush with embarrassment. The room had gone quiet, everyone watching the drama unfold. "Actually, I started, but Linda wasn't finished. You know," she continued, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear, "when Jake was with Sarah, she always knew exactly what to get me. Remember that beautiful necklace from 2 Christmases ago, Jake? Now that was a thoughtful gift." The room fell silent. I could feel all eyes on me, a mix of pity and curiosity. Jake's grip on my hand tightened to the point of pain, but I barely noticed. I was too busy trying to hold back tears and maintain some semblance of composure. "Mom," Jake said, his voice low and warning. "That's enough." But Linda was on a roll. She turned to her friend Marge, who was sitting next to her. "You remember Sarah, don't you, Marge? Such a lovely girl. A doctor now, you know. Shame things didn't work out between them." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like every snide comment, every disapproving look, every passive-aggressive remark of the past 7 years had culminated in this moment of public humiliation. I looked at Jake, silently pleading with him to do something, anything, to stop this. Jake stood up, his face red with anger. I'd never seen him look so furious. "Mom, can I speak to you in the kitchen? Now?" Linda had the audacity to look surprised. "Oh, sweetie, I'm just opening my gifts. Can't it wait?" "No," Jake said firmly. "It can't." As they walked to the kitchen, I sat there, feeling like I wanted the ground to swallow me whole. The other guests awkwardly resumed their conversations, but I could hear snippets of whispers. "Poor thing," someone said. "Linda's never liked her," said another. I was on the verge of tears when I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Jake's Aunt Susan, the only member of his family who had ever been genuinely kind to me. "Don't let her get to you, dear," Susan said softly. "Linda's always been a piece of work. You're the best thing that ever happened to Jake, and deep down, she knows it. That's why she's so threatened by you." I managed a weak smile, grateful for her support. "Thanks, Aunt Susan. I don't know what I did to make her hate me so much." Susan shook her head. "It's not about you, honey. It's about her. She's never been able to let go of Jake, never been able to accept that he has his own life now. It was the same with Sarah, you know." I looked at her in surprise. "Really? But I thought that Sarah was the perfect daughter-in-law?" Susan chuckled. "Hardly. Linda made her life miserable too. That's why they broke up, you know. Sarah couldn't handle the pressure." This was news to me. Jake had never gone into detail about his breakup with Sarah, and I'd never pushed. Hearing this, I felt a mix of emotions, relief that it wasn't just me, sadness for what Sarah must have gone through, and a renewed determination to not let Linda win. A few minutes later, Jake emerged from the kitchen, looking grim. He walked straight to me and helped me up. "We're leaving," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Mom's not feeling well, so the party's over. Thanks for coming, everyone." As we walked out, I could hear Linda protesting weakly, but Jake ignored her. He guided me to our car, his hand protected on my lower back. The drive home was silent. I could see Jake's knuckles turning white as he gripped the steering wheel. When we finally got home, he turned to me, his eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "I never thought she'd stoop so low. I should have put a stop to this years ago." I burst into tears then, all the hurt and frustration of the past 7 years pouring out. Jake held me, whispering apologies and words of love. When I finally calmed down, Jake looked me in the eye. "This ends now," he said firmly. "I'm done letting her treat you this way. I'm done enabling her behavior." I nodded, relieved that he was finally taking a stand, but also worried about what this would mean for our family dynamics. The next day, Jake called his mom and laid down the law. He told her that her behavior at the party was unacceptable and that if she couldn't treat me with respect, she wouldn't be a part of our lives. He also informed her that we would no longer be supporting her financially. As you can imagine, Linda didn't take this well. She cried, she screamed, she accused me of turning her son against her. But Jake stood firm. He told her that this was his decision, based on years of her mistreatment of me and her inability to accept our relationship. "But Jake," she wailed, "how am I supposed to survive without your help? I'm your mother. You survived just fine." Jake remained firm despite Linda's protests. "Mom, you have a house that's paid off and you're capable of working. This financial support was a kindness, not an obligation. If you can't respect my wife and our marriage, we need to set clear boundaries." It's been a month since then, and things have been interesting. Linda's been calling and texting nonstop, alternating between apologies and guilt trips. She's shown up at our house a few times, begging Jake to reconsider. Each time, he calmly but firmly sends her away. The rest of Jake's family is divided. Some, like Aunt Susan, have reached out to express their support. Others have taken Linda's side, calling us cruel for cutting off an old woman. Jake's cousin even started a Facebook campaign to save Aunt Linda, complete with a sob story about how we're leaving her destitute in her old age. As for Jake and me, we're doing better than ever. It's like a weight has been lifted off our shoulders. We're talking about starting a family of our own, something we'd been hesitant about before because of all the drama with Linda. I won't lie, there are moments when I feel guilty. I never wanted to come between Jake and his mom. But then I remind myself that this isn't about me. It's about Linda's toxic behavior and Jake's decision to prioritize our marriage and his own well-being. So, that's my story. It's been a wild ride, and I'm sure we haven't heard the last from Linda. But for now, we're enjoying the peace and looking forward to building our future together. Edit: Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your kind words and support. To address some common questions/comments. 1. Yes, we've considered therapy, both as a couple and potentially family therapy with Linda if she's willing to acknowledge her behavior and work on changing it. 2. No, we're not going to cave and start supporting Linda again. Jake is firm on this. 3. For those asking about Linda's financial situation, she's not destitute. She has a fully paid off house and is capable of working. 4. Yes, we've considered legal action regarding the harassment, but we're hoping it won't come to that. We're documenting everything just in case. Thank you all again. It's comforting to know we're not alone in dealing with difficult in-laws. Edit 2. Some developments. Linda showed up at Jake's office yesterday, causing a scene. Jake had to call security to escort her out. We're now seriously considering a restraining order. On a positive note, Jake's cousin took down the Facebook campaign after we threatened legal action for defamation. We're taking things one day at a time. Thanks for all your support and advice. Final edit: We've been floored by the outpouring of support. We've decided to take a step back from social media for a while to focus on our relationship and mental health. We're also starting couples therapy to ensure we're united as we move forward. Thank you all again. You've truly made a difference in our lives.